Good afternoon in New York, Chicago, Montreal. That's where we are. This webinar is everywhere. So good afternoon to Canada, Haiti. Good morning in California. Good evening in Europe and Africa. And welcome, whatever time of day or night, for all of us here, for all of you who are joining us from all over the corners of the world. I'm Yael Danieli, founder and executive director of the International Center for Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma, ICMGLT for short. Thank you for joining our webinar on understanding the multigenerational absence of women in oral and written Haitian historiography. This International Center for the Study, Prevention, and Treatment of Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma will address the notable, disturbing absence of Haitian women in both oral and written Haitian historiography. Held on January 2, today, when Haitians pay tribute to ancestors and founding fathers, notice no mothers, here, this webinar will acknowledge Haiti's women's multiple vital roles as resilient pillars of Haitian society and honor their invaluable contributions at and since Haiti's birth. International Haitian experts will present and analyze in depth and attempt to fill these psycho-socio-cultural historiographical gaps, believing that augmenting Haiti's full heritage through bringing true women's stories to light will inspire and enrich current and future Haitian generations. This webinar could not have happened without the dedication of Monette Metier and Donat Caten and Dr. Marie Lemmy, co-chairs of the ICMGLT's Intergenerational Traumatic Impact of Enslavement Colonization on the Haitian Population Working Group. Haiti's Working Group for short. Indeed, today's webinar is Monette's brainchild. We might also acknowledge with gratitude our generous French-English interpreters, Dominique Gutierrez and Nicolas Bikosinski, and English Haitian Creole, Christila Laguerre, and Angeline Joseph Smith for helping us with the translators and with the translation to ensure that all Haitian people can access and understand the wisdom of our panelists. Your moderator, I am a clinical psychologist, traumatologist, victimologist, and psychohistorian. I have devoted much of my career to studying, treating, and writing about and preventing lifelong and multi-generational impacts of massive trauma worldwide, to ensuring victims' rights, the rights of future generations, and to reparative justice. Today's webinar's first speaker is William Leslie Balan-Gaubert. A native of Haiti, Leslie is a Haitian history and society scholar in residence and lecturer at the University of Chicago. With extensive studies in Haiti, France, and the United States, he focuses on and explores Haitian voodoo as both cultural memory and ethical life. In fact, all of you who are attending today, if you did not attend our webinar on voodoo, Please attend. It is totally brilliant. So Leslie contributed significantly to the understanding and appreciation of Haitian voodoo and its profound impact on societal and cultural dynamics. Leslie is a dedicated active member of ICMGLT's Haiti's working group. Our second speaker is not here yet. I hope she's okay and she will join us. Let me introduce her nonetheless. Is Professor Balan-Gaubert. Professor Bello is native of Haiti, writer, historian, and expert in Haitian and Pan-African history, and founder and president of the historical research-based organization Foundation Marie-Claire Héroux Félicité Bonheur Dessalines. A healer and spiritual leader, Professor Bello traveled extensively to advocate for a revised narrative surrounding Haitian identity, highlighting women's vital contributions defined as sheroes in the nation's history. She has also written several books about Haitian women. Third from Canada is Marie-Lucie Vendries. Marie-Lucie has a bachelor's degree in art history, a master's, and a postgraduate diploma in museology. Appointed General Director of the Musée de Panthéon National Haïtien, forgive my pronunciation, on October 2004, she has produced the exhibition Haiti, La Liberté Conquise, and is deeply committed to advocating for recognition of Haiti's art. In August 2010, she helped recover and restore damaged artworks at the Centre de Sauvage des Biens Culturels. Today's fourth speaker and friend and member of our working group is Patricia Brentel. Patricia is a Haitian-born artist residing in Whitestone, New York, who has created a series of silhouettes depicting Haitian heroes. Brentel is collaborating with Femme Rebelle on a 3-year research project sponsored by the L'Ouvre Trust and the Institute for Black Atlantic Research at the University of Central Lancashire. Her work aims at giving voice to the untold and undocumented stories of women in the Haitian Revolution. Last but not least is Dr. Stephanie Chansey. Stephanie Chansey is the Caribbean Partnership Librarian and Director of Operations for the Digital Library of the Caribbean at the University of Florida's George A. Smothers Libraries. She holds a PhD in history from Florida International University. Her research focuses on Black Atlantic material cultures, especially the cultural and artistic exchange between the Caribbean, Europe, and the United States. We have an hour and a half for the webinar, and we most likely will need some extra time because of the late start. Each of our panelists will speak for about 8 minutes. Following an interchange among us, I will open the floor for questions or brief comments from the virtual audience, you. We will then conclude with what we call last words. Please use the Q&A and chat functions, and we will do our best to respond to as many questions and brief comments as we can. Feel free to direct your question to a particular panelist or to the full panel. I now have the total pleasure to offer the screen to Leslie Balan-Gaubert. The floor is yours, Leslie.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be part of this discussion. I'm going to try to speak slow because of for the interpreters to pick up my words.
It's okay, they have a text.
Yes. What I'm going to do actually is just point the finger at some absences of coverage of Haitian women in Haitian historiography. And I prepared a brief statement on that. By and large, history writing in Haiti has long been shaped through a male-centered framework, neglecting the contributions of women and reinforcing gender discrimination.
Leslie, may I stop you for a minute? There's a request to explain how the participants can have access to the interpretation. And Marie-Lou, your sound is creating interference. Maybe you can mute when other people are speaking. Thank you so much. The way to access the interpretation is you see the circle with 3 dots, click on it, and then scroll down to interpretation. You see? And then you choose a language, English, French, or Haitian Creole. Thank you very much. And Leslie.
I can go?
Excuse me?
I can continue?
Please.
Yes, okay, very well. So I repeat a bit, sorry about that.
Don't repeat, simply make it because we don't have time.
But your interruption is going to make the time shorter. Don't worry about it. I have to be clear. By and large, I said, history writing in Haiti has long been shaped through a male-centered framework, neglecting the contributions of women and reinforcing gender discrimination. My intervention merely points to the finger at the structures and tendencies that permeate the historical narratives of Haiti. And I try to call attention to their impact on academic understanding and public consciousness. Having observed how Haitian women have been systematically overlooked and or misrepresented in history, I maintain that the oversight and distortion of women's roles perpetrate and complete and skewed representations of Haiti's past. The consequences are far-reaching, since they hinder a more equitable society and reinforce systematic gender inequality. So I aim here, very briefly, to conclude with a call for a transformative approach to Haitian historiography, one that critically examines its male-centered practices and that also embraces an inclusive, intersectional framework. So historical writing in Haiti, like many national histories, has been shaped by frameworks that prioritize male agency while downplaying women's contributions. The foundational narratives of Haiti often neglect the critical roles played by women, relegating them to the sidelines or erasing them entirely. So here I merely allude to how this approach has influenced the writing of Haitian history. And I try to point out the consequences this pervasive neglect has on Haitian society, politics, and culture. The male-centered approach on Haitian society, on Haitian history in society, is evident as male figures such as Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Henri Christophe, to name only these, dominate historical accounts, while women like Sanit Belair, Catherine Flon, Marie-Jeanne Lamartinière, and others, to name only these, are marginalized or framed through the lens of male-centered narratives. When women are mentioned, their roles are often reduced to symbolic acts, such as Catherine Flon soaring the Haitian flag, rather than substantive political and military contributions. This masculine lens stems from broader societal norms that value male leadership and view women's contributions as secondary or domestic. Haitian historians, influenced no doubt by the great men theory of historiographical tradition, particularly the one inaugurated by Carlyle, the English writer, has often perpetuated these biases, focusing on political and military achievements, domains that are historically dominated by men, while neglecting social, cultural, and economic dimensions where women's agency has been pivotal. The writings of the 19th and early 20th century historians such as Thomas Madiou, the Haitian historian, Beaubrun-Ardrin, only to name these. I could name many, but I just want to name the ones that are much more prominent. For example, they exhibit a marked neglect of women's contributions to the Haitian Revolution and to nation building. This omission reflects a broader cultural tendency to view women in subordinate roles and incapable of leadership, thereby perpetuating stereotypes that undermine women's historical significance. Even in contemporary historiography, as I glean some of them, the contributions of women are often framed within narrow gendered roles. For example, female leaders in Vaudou are frequently depicted as mystical or exotic, reducing their socio-political influence to caricatures rooted in colonial stereotypes. This framing not only distorts historical realities, but also reinforces gendered hierarchies within Haitian culture. The exclusion of women from historical accounts results in an incomplete understanding of Haiti's past. For example, the Haitian Revolution, a transformative event in global history, cannot be fully understood without acknowledging the role of women in espionage, logistical support, in combat, and you name it, to name only these. Sanit Belair, for example, her execution by the French alongside her husband Charles Belair underscores her significance as a revolutionary leader. Yet her story is often, not always, because there are some who have highlighted her, her story is often sidelined in favor of male figures, particularly in male-centered historiography. This marginalization of women in historical narratives reinforces systemic gender inequality in Haitian society. By valorizing male leaders and devaluing women's contribution, historiography legitimizes patriarchal norms and undermines efforts to promote gender equity. This has tangible implications for women's political representation, access to education, and participation in public life. Gender bias in historiography distorts cultural memory, shaping how Haitians understand their identity and heritage. The erasure of women's roles in nation building creates a historical amnesia that devalues their ongoing contributions to Haitian society. This distortion perpetuates myths of male supremacy and diminishes the diversity and richness of Haitian cultural history. The patriarchal bias in Haitian historiography limits the scope of academic inquiry by privileging certain types of narratives over others. Scholars who seek to explore women's roles or adopt feminist methodologies often face challenges in accessing sources, as archival materials are frequently organized around male-centric themes. To address the dire consequences of patriarchy, misogyny, and gender discrimination in Haitian historiography, a transformative approach is necessary, if I should say imperative. First, historians must interrogate their patriarchal assumptions embedded in their methodologies and narratives. This includes challenging the prioritization of political and military history over social and cultural dimensions. Second, they must account for the intersection of gender with race, class, and other axes of identity. Women's experiences during the Haitian Revolution, for example, were shaped not only by their gender, but also by their status as enslaved and free persons. Third, scholars must actively seek to recover and center the stories of women in Haitian history. Oral histories, Vodou songs, and archival materials related to domestic and community life are invaluable sources for reconstructing these narratives. And I must say that some people, a few have already begun to do that, and I've been doing that for some time. For public commemorations, school curricula and cultural institutions must highlight the contributions of Haitian women. Initiatives such as renaming streets after female revolutionaries or creating monuments to honor their legacy can help reshape cultural memory. So let me quickly conclude. The male-centered and discriminatory frameworks that pervade in Haitian writing or writing of Haitian history have dire consequences for both academic scholarship and social development. By overlooking and marginalizing women's contributions, these frameworks perpetuate incomplete narratives, reinforce systemic inequality, and distort cultural memory. So a transformative approach to writing Haitian history rooted in feminist and intersectional methodologies is essential for uncovering the full complexity of Haiti's past and for promoting a more equitable future. In rewriting our country's history, we not only do justice to the women who shaped it, but also create the conditions for a more inclusive and representative national identity. I apologize if there were some redundancies in what I had to say, but thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for your contribution. Professor Bello, you're welcome to share your wisdom with us. Please unmute. Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings to everyone. First of all, greetings to our ancestors. Today is Ancestors Day in Haiti. So I greet all those who for over 300 years relayed themselves in fighting for the freedom on our land, to regain freedom on our land. And of course, all my family, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my parents, I greet you guys today in particular. Thank you for inviting me to this, to say a few words on this subject. The absence of women in history is not a debatable subject. Everyone, every child can observe it. And it is a worldwide problem. It's not limited to Haiti at all. But of course, we have to deal with it in as far as Haiti is concerned. We have spent about 20 some odd years just searching for the presence of women. I have to say that the first time it happened to me is when an older woman, a 113-year-old woman, Susanna Jean, who told me, oui, ou parle de Saline, ou parle de Saline, mais un lot moun yo, li pat gen madame, li pat gen petite. And that was my first element, that the first thing that triggered me when this old lady tell me, did Dessalines have any family? Because you're always talking about him and you don't say nothing about his family. And that's where we began our search some 30 some odd years ago. So eventually I do find out that yes, he did have a wife, and a wife who was a great politician, a wife who rose just like him from slave to empress, and who accomplished a great deal, who was well known before she became his wife, well known as a healer, well known as an educator. This is a woman who taught a lot of people how to read and write, including Jean-Jacques Dessalines, how to read and write French. But of course, what our children get to know, she is non-existent, actually. You know, some people might hear the word Marie-Claire Heureuse. Some people might hear Claire Heureuse. But who was she? What did she do? She participated in writing the first constitution of the country, the Imperial Constitution, promulgated in May 20th, 1805. She wrote particularly the articles on the protection of children. So all the elements of vision in that constitution are from this woman, Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur, who is absent in Haiti's history. The second woman I will quickly mention is Queen Marie-Louise. Again, now while everybody else in their history, even if they don't say much about the women, but they will prop up the queens and the empresses and the big titles. In our case, not even the titles. So, you know, most people don't know we've had the first woman, we've had an empress, we've had a queen. In fact, we've had two empresses because the Second Empire was with Adelina, Empress Adelina of Haiti. So, but besides that, Queen Marie-Louise is also a very intelligent woman who participated with whom, who debated, kept her husband informed. She loved world news. She read the newspaper regularly and shared with her husband information about what's going on in the world. And part of why King Henry had a fleet is because Marie-Louise Croix-David, her father, was involved in boat. And so and she would often mention it, and that's when he became interested in getting boats and doing commerce, worldwide commerce. In the kingdom also is the place where we have the Code Henri, Code du Travail, you know, with structured work very much. And it says clearly, this is the first place, as far as I could see, the first document in the world that says, once you work for somebody or some institution for 20 or more years, anything happens to you, then that institution is to take care of whatever your illness and whatever, give you some benefits and whatnot. And this document, the United States said that King Henry was now doing slavery of employers. That's what the US had referred to it as when we first put that text out. But later, they took the text, translated it, and turned it into the Social Security Act. So, but it was a lot of Marie-Louise was very much involved in the working of, in the structuring of that text. We've had under King Henry also, the head of the army is a woman. I'm still working on her name because I have so many of them, I don't use any of them. But she was nicknamed Tiwa. She was the head of the army. She was a general in the army, and she was nicknamed Tiwa, Little King. And that's what everybody referring to her always talk about, Tiwa, and her true name, I'm still working on it. Hopefully somebody maybe on the panel already got it. So that would be great. So we have children, girls like Améthyste, who left their boarding schools and went to join the revolution. We have, of course, Marie-Jeanne is a woman who was involved with, she had over 2,000 spies working for her across the world. So whenever France was going to send any number of boats to Haiti, Marie-Jeanne was the person with the information who would give it to the generals so they could make their strategies. Whenever Spain was going to make a move against us, Marie-Jeanne was the person who had the information. So, and since her, I have not seen Haiti with any kind of spy information gathering structure. But she also had her own troops of 2,000 women, no men. That's the only troop I came across that had no men whatsoever. All the troop was strictly female. But all these women are not known, but history or language help us to remember. Because we have a saying that says, who do you think you are? You take yourself for Marie-Jeanne. So Marie-Jeanne, because Marie-Jeanne is the woman that Dessalines said, when every general said it was impossible, then he called on her. She always had a solution. And there's been a couple of times in our history where they printed a stamp with her, with a likeness of her or a suggestion of her, but she is not part of our history. What our children learn, they don't learn anything about a woman like that. They do not learn about young children doing things. They do not learn about Toussaint Louverture, who writes in many of his letters, when he describes how they go into battle. He says the children go into battle first, because the children would crawl on the ground and go get ammunition, bring back to them from the enemy camp. Then the women would go next, and it was the women's role to dismantle the cannon. Because as long as the cannon, because we didn't have any cannon, as long as the cannon was shooting, there was no way for us to get on the battlefield. So the women would go. And he says the most extraordinary thing that he witnessed is women with their newborn babies tied to their back, who would go and struggle to dismantle the cannon. And when nothing worked, the mother would take her child and stuff it in the cannon's mouth. That kind of sacrifice, no man has ever gotten to that height of sacrificing themselves and what is dearest to them for the common good. But the women would do, according to Toussaint, the women did things that no man could even understand sometimes on the. So I want to make it short. I don't want to lengthen your thing, but just to give you a few ideas as to the jewels that is left out in our history. Then when we also take into consideration that the women are generally, very often, I would, in my account, 55 to 60% of the population. So when you write a history and you ice out 60% of the population, then next, you also don't mention the children. Many children were involved. So I don't know what percentage the children would represent, but it's a high percentage. And you also deny the elders and the most elders. For example, Toussaint Louverture's godfather was Pierre-Simon Baptiste, who was 116 years old and he was the only person who followed from Henry to Gonaïves when he was arrested by the French. 116 years old. But they have us all recite, oh, slavery was such, nobody could survive 10 years. But that's an absolute lie. Dessalines is 48, Toussaint is 60, this one is 70, and you're telling me nobody can survive 10 years? And we repeat these things. That's not true, okay? So, and it diminishes our resilience, it diminishes our power, it diminishes our perception of ourselves. And all of these absences, so now when the history is reduced to military high-ranking men, how much of the history do we know? So it's a drastic and it's a worldwide problem. So it is something that we must really do. And I can easily imagine how psychologically this makes the people of the world sick, because we have such a batched up perception of our past. Thank you. There's a hand, Laguerre Cristela.
Yes, there's a problem with the Haitian, Rabbi, there's a problem with the Haitian Creole translation. Yes.
Yep, I can hear you in there. There we go. Perfect. Okay. All settled.
Yes. Rabbi, would you fix that,
Yep,
please?
everything's fixed. Good to go.
Okay. Professor Bello, thank you so very much for pointing out that Haiti, in this particular webinar, is shining the light on a worldwide problem. That women, right. So, and thank you so much for the vivid description of the presence of women. Thank you.
Welcome.
Marie,
Lucie,
please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. My name is Marie-Lucie Vendris. Même si sur l'écran, c'est Marie Leroy, mon nom, c'est Marie-Lucie Vendris. Moi, je vais parler de la reine Marie-Louise parce que j'ai travaillé sur elle, j'ai publié un livre sur elle. Ce travail m'a pris peut-être 20 ans, mais j'y suis arrivée quand même. Bon, pour la présenter brièvement, elle est née le 8 mai 1778 dans la commune de Wanamède. Elle est décédée le 14 mars 1851 à Pise, en Toscane. Et elle a été inhumée à l'église capucine San Donino à Pise. Elle a été l'épouse d'Henri Christophe, du roi Henri Christophe. Ils se sont mariés le 15 juillet 1793. Elle avait 15 ans. Donc, elle a eu son premier enfant à 16 ans, qui était François Ferdinand. Et la fille aînée, Françoise Améthyste, qui a suivi Ferdinand, la deuxième. La troisième, Anne Athénaïse. Et le dernier, le prince royal, Jacques-Victor Henri. Maintenant, Marie-Louise a été une compagne très fidèle d'Henri Christophe. Elle était de religion catholique romaine, d'après ce que j'ai lu dans tous mes textes. Et j'ai commencé à m'intéresser à cette femme quand, en 2000, je montais une exposition pour le musée numismatique de la BRH et il y avait une succursale qui devait être faite au Cap. Donc, en faisant le programme muséographique, je devais achever mon parcours muséographique avec une vitrine ronde pour la reine, parce que dans la numismatique haïtienne, c'est pire que dans l'histoire, il n'y a aucune femme. Mais j'avais eu la chance de trouver une pièce de 1820, une des dernières pièces frappées par le royaume, par Christophe. J'entends un bruit là, je ne sais pas d'où ça vient. Vous m'entendez bien? Oui? OK. Donc,
Oui, je vous entends.
OK. Donc, cette pièce de monnaie, il y avait les initiales ML à côté de celle de HC Henri Christophe. Et je me suis dit, voilà l'occasion de mettre une femme en scène en parlant de la monnaie et en parlant de la monnaie dans l'histoire d'Haïti. Et quand j'ai commencé à fouiller pour écrire un texte sur elle, je ne trouvais rien du tout. En fait, quand je suis tombée sur un petit livre, un livret écrit par Marceau Louis, et ça a tellement suscité d'intérêt chez moi que je n'ai jamais arrêté de chercher qui était cette femme. Évidemment, le musée s'est fait ou c'est pas fait, je ne sais pas, mais j'ai continué mon travail de recherche. J'ai préparé un livre, j'ai écrit un livre qui est sorti à la fin de 2022, qui s'appelle Marie-Louise, veuve Henri Christophe. Et j'ai dû voyager, faire des recherches ailleurs qu'en Haïti, aussi en Haïti. Et quand j'ai présenté mon livre, il y a des questions qu'on me posait qui m'intriguaient. Il y a deux questions particulièrement qui m'ont permis de fouiller un peu plus, hein, pour comprendre pourquoi Marie-Louise était absente de nos livres, de tous nos livres d'histoire. Il y a des gens qui me disent « Ah, mais je ne la connaissais pas. Ah, mais c'est qui ?» La première question que quelqu'un m'a posée, qu'un assistant m'a posée, pourquoi avoir écrit sur Marie-Louise? Qu'est-ce qu'elle a fait? Et la deuxième question que notre assistant m'a posée, pensez-vous que Marie-Louise peut servir de modèle aujourd'hui à des jeunes femmes? Alors, dans une présentation, évidemment, les réponses sont spontanées, rapides, je ne pouvais pas élaborer. Mais une fois arrivée chez moi, j'ai beaucoup réfléchi à ces deux questions qui, aujourd'hui, me permettent d'émettre des hypothèses. Les deux personnes qui m'ont précédé, là, ont beaucoup parlé de l'histoire, l'étude du passé, qui prend seulement en compte le politique et néglige complètement la morale. Donc, l'accent est mis sur les exploits masculins et néglige totalement la morale, c'est-à-dire les normes et les valeurs grâce auxquelles l'ordre social s'instaure et se maintient. Bon, le rôle des femmes dans la morale, on peut dire que les femmes peuplent le monde de la morale. Marie-Louise, elle, a été une figure affichée partout dans les livres, dans les textes, de la morale. On peut déjà dire d'elle qu'elle était une présence historique, avant que je la présente comme figure historique, parce qu'elle assistait à toutes les cérémonies officielles, à tous les événements, à tout ce qui se passait dans le royaume. Là, je parle de l'époque où Christophe, on a déjà l'indépendance, et où elle est une figure dominante de l'histoire. Donc, sa présence est déjà une présence historique. Lorsqu'elle est couronnée reine le 2 juin 1811 par Henri lui-même, parce que c'est Henri qui a déposé la couronne sur sa tête, son charisme et sa notoriété étaient déjà accomplis. Et ça n'a pas cessé de croître. Donc, la présence historique de Marie-Louise fait d'elle une figure historique. Oui, légitimement. Donc, là, Madame Bello a parlé de Madame Dessalines. Les rapports de Marie-Louise avec Madame Dessalines étaient des rapports de mère à fille, pratiquement. Et quand elles étaient dans le chaos, dans les montagnes du chaos, elles étaient allées se réfugier là pendant que la guerre se faisait entre les hommes, okay? Marie-Louise a appris à collaborer étroitement avec Madame Dessalines. Donc, Marie-Louise, on peut dire qu'elle s'est investie, elle s'est impliquée d'abord dans cette guerre, d'une manière ou d'une autre. Elle avait quoi, une vingtaine d'années, jeune vingtaine, elle avait des enfants en bas âge. On peut dire aussi qu'elle a investi, si on parle d'investissement, on parle d'implication, elle a investi quand elle a eu les moyens, parce qu'elle avait des moyens financièrement, dans l'instruction publique des filles, dans la restauration de l'hôpital des femmes qu'on appelait la Providence des femmes à l'époque. Elle avait un leadership aux commandes, elle était aux commandes du corps d'Amazon. Elle avait aussi une influence certaine. Madame Bello en a parlé, et moi je l'ai lu de long. Enfin, le Code Henri de 1812, sur l'adoption des règlements du chapitre 3 concernant le mariage, tutelle d'enfants, le statut des enfants illégitimes, les questions d'héritage, tout ça, on sent l'influence, la présence de la reine, probablement héritée de Marie-Louise, de Marie-Claire Heureuse, parce qu'elles étaient très, très, très proches. Maintenant, les questions symboliques qui sont complètement négligées dans notre histoire, Marie-Louise incarnait les valeurs et les idéaux d'une nouvelle société où l'esclavage avait été aboli. Le poète officiel de Marie-Louise, le comte de Rosier, Juste Cholade, le comte de Limonade, Julien Prévost, ces hommes-là et autres aussi, ces hommes-là ont écrit de manière vraiment éloquente, ce que la reine incarnait. Il faut les lire, il faut lire les écrits du comte de Rosier. Évidemment, c'est très flatteur, mais en même temps, il y a un fond de vérité là-dedans, on ne peut pas le nier. Donc, ces gens-là nous ont laissé une figure du 19e siècle haïtien, une espèce d'image féminine à laquelle je pourrais répondre à ce monsieur qui m'avait posé la deuxième question. Toutes les jeunes femmes modernes pourraient avoir certaines affinités. Maintenant, pour revenir au rapport de l'histoire à l'héroïsme, de cette question de héros. Marie-Louise, évidemment, comme la plupart des femmes de son époque, elle était totalement exclue du politique. Moi, je fais la différence entre le politique et la politique. Elle était exclue de l'organisation du pouvoir, de la gouvernance, des affaires juridiques. Tout ça se concentrait entre les mains des hommes. Même la Constitution de 1811 lui avait interdit la régence. Ça veut dire que si le roi mourait avant que le prince royal, Jacques-Victor, atteignait sa majorité, Marie-Louise ne pouvait pas agir comme régente. Donc ça, c'était inscrit dans la Constitution. Maintenant, la question de la politique, la politique, Marie-Louise était jusqu'au cou là-dedans, mais c'était écrit nulle part dans les textes. Ou peut-être oui, mais il fallait les lire. Il fallait les lire au-delà de ce qui était tout simplement écrit. Donc, la reine participait à des activités concrètes et opérationnelles liées à la gestion des affaires publiques. Maintenant, il y avait la question de l'idéal féminin au 19e siècle haïtien. Comment est-ce qu'on peut définir cet idéal haïtien? Si on écoute le baron de Dessalines, le baron de Louis Dessalines, qui était le neveu ou le fils de Jean-Jacques, je ne sais plus, le 15 août 1816, il a fait un discours. Il s'adressait souvent à Madame Dessalines, à Madame Christophe, je veux dire. Il dit, Madame, nos vœux sont le juste tribut dû à vos vertus et aux qualités éminentes dont votre Majesté est douée. Ils appartiennent au modèle des mères et des épouses. Puissiez-vous, aimable reine, perpétuer le bonheur de votre auguste époux. Et voilà. Donc, le modèle colonial persiste. Le modèle colonial, Marie-Louise est née, bien sûr, en 1778, donc elle a connu le système esclavagiste. Elle n'était pas esclave. Elle était née d'une mère libre et libre elle-même, selon le Code noir. Mais elle avait bien compris que la prospérité dans ce système-là reposait sur un capitalisme marchand. Excusez-moi, je rentre un peu dans l'économie, mais bon. Il paraissait normal que le Code Henri accorde de grandes propriétés terriennes aux nouveaux nobles qui les faisaient cultiver dans des conditions définies dans le Code Henri. On peut aller lire le partage, les bénéfices en quart. Certains auteurs ont dressé un parallèle entre cette terre qui produit de la richesse et le corps féminin qui reproduisait des petits esclaves à l'époque de l'esclavage. Donc après 1804, il y a eu une urgence du repeuplement et naturellement, je mets ça entre guillemets en italique, on a fait des femmes haïtiennes, des épouses et des mères. Là, j'essaie de comprendre l'absence des femmes. C'est pour ça que je suis allée dans ce créneau-là. Donc, l'épouse d'Henri et la mère de ses enfants légitimes est le modèle par excellence. Dans l'espace public, Marie-Louise était reconnue comme la mère de la nation, des enfants d'Henri. Il y avait une grosse association qui s'appelait les enfants d'Henri. Ils avaient leur hymne, ils chantaient lors de cérémonies, etc. Et là, Marie-Louise était la mère des enfants d'Henri, donc une mère de la nation. Et son rôle dans l'éducation et la morale de la nouvelle société haïtienne s'est précisé. On retrouve dans les textes que j'ai lus, dans les almanachs, dans les gazettes royales, etc., dans tous les écrits des grands écrivains de l'époque, de Vathé, le mot vertu qui revient souvent. Et Marie-Louise, c'était le visage de la vertu, la figure de la vertu. Donc, son rôle dans l'éducation et la morale de la nouvelle société haïtienne s'est précisée à ce moment-là. En 1811, une fois le système monarchique instauré et le pouvoir légitimé, il fallait les consolider. Donc, à 33 ans, la reine se faufilait dans les coulisses du pouvoir pour remplir des charges symboliques, dont la principale était la fabrication d'une identité proprement haïtienne. Et ça, les écrits de tous les écrits du royaume, dans le projet de société du roi Christophe, on retrouve cette volonté de créer un être haïtien nouveau, un citoyen haïtien. Bon, maintenant, pour construire, fabriquer cette identité nouvelle, il fallait utiliser une stratégie qui n'est pas celle de la guerre, qui n'est pas celle des fusils, qui n'est pas celle de la violence, ni de la force. Il fallait développer ce qu'on appelle la stratégie de l'émotion. Et Marie-Louise est parfaite dans ce rôle-là. Elle faisait la manifestation de son humanisme. Elle parlait du cœur, et on retrouve le mot cœur dans beaucoup de discours adressés à Marie-Louise. Donc, elle répondait, elle avait une voix, elle a beaucoup parlé dans les réunions, les événements publics. Quand on lui adressait la parole directement, elle répondait.
Marie-Lucie, clearly you can speak for hours.
Non, je vais finir là.
But we do, and there's a problem with Haitian Creole.
No. Okay, let me go.
Would you conclude? So we have two other.
This is my last page. Let me finish.
Very good, thank you.
Ok. Donc, la figure morale de Marie-Louise, ok, en référence aux normes et aux valeurs, d'accord, répondait à des règles, des codes et des principes fixés par la monarchie. Ok. Donc, cette monstration de Marie-Louise, moi, je dis qu'on montrait Marie-Louise comme un trophée. Donc, moi, je vais aller, ça c'est la fin, hein. Je suis un paragraphe avant ma conclusion, Madame Yael. Donc, le 2 juin 1811, quand on fêtait le couronnement, ok, il y a le comte Joseph Raphaël qui s'est adressé à Madame Marie-Louise. Madame, du règne d'Henri datera celui de la naissance des arts, de la civilisation et de l'urbanité haïtienne. Donc, de facto, la reine était la protectrice des créateurs art, littérature surtout. Elle était la figure dominante et prédominante, la figure civilisatrice, ok, parce qu'il fallait montrer à l'extérieur que nous pouvions rentrer dans le monde moderne, et elle était détentrice de l'urbanité haïtienne. L'urbanité haïtienne, ça veut dire la politesse, où entre affabilité naturelle et usage du monde. Donc, tous les textes que j'ai lus parlent de ce côté affable de Marie-Louise. En conclusion, l'histoire donc se trouve aujourd'hui à un carrefour qui exige, je rejoins les panélistes précédents, un rééquilibrage du masculin et du féminin dans les textes. Je dis un rééquilibrage parce que les héros, nos pères de la patrie, ils ont fait la déconstruction, mais la reconstruction de notre pays, ils ont complètement négligé l'apport féminin. Donc, on ne pouvait pas utiliser les arts pour reconstruire, il fallait autre chose et plus, ok, il fallait l'apport des femmes. Donc, c'est ce que moi j'appelle cet héroïsme féminin, cet apport au niveau de la morale et des valeurs pour reconstruire une société qui avait été complètement détruite. Donc voilà, réécrire l'histoire pour la transmission, pour nos générations futures, pour appréhender le présent et redresser les fondations de ce futur. Et c'est ma fin. J'irai pas plus loin parce que Madame Yael va m'arrêter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tricia, I thank you for your patience, and Stephanie. Marie-Lucie, you can you're clearly in love with her, and your feelings come across, and you can all of us to love her. But we promised the audience several perspectives. So Thank you again, Patricia. The screen is yours, and you need to share screen. And please unmute. And Marie-Lucie, please mute yourself.
And
Marie-Lucie, please mute yourself.
I'm trying to, well, just a second.
Okay, good. Patricia, go ahead. And interpreters, can we hear both the Haitian Creole and the French? People are missing the Haitian Creole. So please try to speak only to your own channel.
am I doing something wrong here?
Robbie, can you share the screen for Patricia?
Please.
Okay, screen sharing is allowed, so you should be able to, Patricia.
So I click on here and I click on desktop, right?
Click on where it says share, yep, and then desktop, or you can select the actual window that you have open.
It's on the desktop. And people see this?
No, we just still see you.
So when you click share, there should be another blue button that says share once you click on the desktop.
Okay, let me go back. Share, there's a blue, yes, the blue screen, I see it. I click on it and it says allow Zoom workspace to share your screen. And I say open system setting.
Yes, just follow whatever commands that your computer's telling you to allow access for Zoom.
Okay, Zoom. No. Well, it's not allowing me. Maybe Stefani, you could go now while I
Would
try.
you like to email me the document and I can set it up for you?
Perfect. Yeah. So Stefani, you can do that while you can
Okay,
speak.
no problem. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Yes, you're the images people.
All right, do you see it?
Yes.
Are we cooking with fire? We're cooking with fire, people. We're cooking with fire. Good afternoon. Happy New Year from the US East Coast. Happy 221st year of Haitian independence. And of course, honor to the ancestors. It is a pleasure to be part of such a wonderful group. I speak to you today as a historian, one who often tries to tell the tales of past events and of the people who participated in those events. And in order for us to weave and support our stories, historians are largely dependent on evidence. And that evidence we find in primary sources, documents, newspapers, letters, written in the past. These sources, we generally find them in archives and libraries. But what happens when your subject is not included in the sources, or you have limited access to resources? What do you do when your usual subjects, their contributions and their stories are silenced in the historical narrative. Since I tend to write about women, I am often in such a situation. Today, I want to highlight one of the subjects of my research and explain how I managed to reconstruct her life for a project. Louise Chancy Louverture was born in the southern province of Legacies in the colony of Saint-Domingue in 1782. She was the youngest child of a formerly enslaved woman, Geneviève Afiba, and a white landowner, Bernard Chancy. Chancy Louverture was also Toussaint Louverture's niece, and in 1804, she married his son, Isaac Louverture. In 1802, at almost 20, Chancy Louverture arrived in France, an exile deported with her uncle and his family. She died in Bordeaux in 1871 at almost 90 years old, having spent nearly 70 years in France. Now, I first encountered Madame Louverture in 2009 when I picked up Gérald Alexis' Peintre Haïtien, and it fell open to the page with her portrait. I always say that Louise found me. I was immediately curious and knew that someday I was going to write about her. That opportunity presented itself in 2019 when I began to work on my dissertation. Now, I had quite a few indications that Madame Louverture was a prominent figure in 19th century France. First was her surviving portrait, and second, there was a secondary source, Sally McKee's The Exile's Song, about another African-descended exile in France who discussed her at length. And they even quoted a portion of the notice for her funeral cortege. The announcement was published in La Guyenne, an important newspaper in Bordeaux. With this concrete information in hand, surely there was more evidence for me to examine. Indeed, I found that the Bordeaux archive holds some of her papers. Their website, however, indicates the file is incomplete. 20th and 21st century historians who study the Louverture family indicate that while family papers from their time in exile do exist, they had seemingly disappeared. This was a cause for concern, since without sources, no historical project can be completed. I wasn't ready to give up just yet because, full disclosure, I did not have a plan B to replace Chancy Louverture in my project. I thus continued to read primary and secondary sources that I could access in the hopes of catching mention, however brief, of Louise. At this point, after so many years, we are on a first-name basis. There were a few which speak to her significance, particularly in the Louverture family narrative. In my reading, I eventually came across the work of the 20th century Haitian historian Alain Tournier, who briefly mentioned that the quote-unquote lost Louverture family papers were in fact in Haiti. According to Tournier, the Haitian president, Sténio Vincent, had acquired them. This is in keeping with other initiatives that Vincent undertook to shore up Haitian national pride following the US occupation. Tournier went on to say that he had examined the papers in the Haitian Musée du Panthéon National, Moupana. An internet search for Moupana led me to the Archives Nationales d'Haïti, a founding partner of the Digital Library of the Caribbean. Shameless plug here for the Digital Library of the Caribbean, which makes research resources freely available to all. In browsing their collection online, I found a somewhat innocuous lettre de visite written by Louise Louverture in 1803. It's really more of a note, but it helped me make and support an important argument about Madame Chancy Louverture's life in France. The objective of my project was to reconstruct her life in terms of the 19th century narratives about gender. The letter, in which she makes plans for an outing with one of her friends, confirms the assessment of a 19th century mail writer who stated that her ladylike comportment allowed her to, quote, easily make friends among the ladies of the best class, end quote. The letter also demonstrates the social exchanges that occurred in the 19th century among the upper classes in society. These exchanges were key to building and maintaining the family's social capital within the community, and this is a task that largely fell to women. The 1803 Lettre de Visite shows Louise Chancy-Louverture's participation in these important social interactions. To supplement the written evidence, which admittedly was scanty, I turned to Louise Chancy's portrait. In my project, I argued that Chancy-Louverture epitomized the cardinal virtues of true womanhood. According to Barbara Welter, these virtues included, quote, piety, purity, submissiveness, and domesticity, which, when all were brought together, created the ideal mother, daughter, sister, wife, woman. Chancy-Louverture's portrait exemplifies her dignity and control, which were characteristics prized and cultivated in the late 18th and 19th century. The portrait was painted sometime between 1822 and 1825, while she was in Haiti, managing, settling, and selling her father-in-law's land holdings on her husband's behalf. Clothing was and remains an important marker in expressing and projecting identity. Her choice of clothing and the accessories with which she is depicted give a good indication of how she wanted to be seen. The dress is dark colored, and the lace details are strategically placed at the collar, sleeve cuffs, and on her day cap. It softens the severe attire, while at the same time stressing her femininity and delicacy. The lace is also a mark of her upper class status. Overall, the clothing is modest. This conforms to feminine ideals that prized a woman's modesty. The clothing is also simple, which conforms to more down-to-earth fashions following the French Revolution. The plainly styled hair further signals her modesty. The muted color, upright posture, and small smile convey the idea of self-control. The portrait strongly communicates the cardinal virtue of piety. You'll notice in the detail that Chancy-Louverture loosely holds a rosary in one hand, while a book rests close to the other. It is probably a prayer book or a Bible. She is kneeling or sitting at a praying bench, a prie-dieu. Now, while I did not have access to many written primary resources, especially those written by Louise Chancy-Louverture herself, by taking on the role of investigator and analyzing the sources that I could access, it was possible to reconstruct Louise Chancy-Louverture's life and support my argument that she embodied the characteristics of 19th century true womanhood. Using material evidence rather than solely relying on the written word was key in this endeavor. And I think I actually came in under time. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, both for rescuing the situation and for a wonderful additional presentation. I hope the participants, despite the problems of time and interpretation, technical, despite the technical issues, we are having such a rich wisdom and knowledge, not only in terms of substance, but in terms of how to get to what you need to find. So you're talking not only about the problem, right? That women were invisible, but you're talking about how to find the facts and where to look and what to look at.
What to look at, and also some of the previous speakers have mentioned that women's actions were detailed, but their names were not mentioned, and this was definitely the case.
Exactly, invisible, nameless. Amazing what we're learning, really amazing. So this webinar is not only important for Haiti, but important for all people who are interested in this issue in the world. And I will expand on it in a tiny bit, but I'm very eager, like all of you, to hear Patricia, and more than even to hear, to see her beautiful creations. So, Patricia, did you figure you need to unmute? You need good. And did you figure how to share screen?
No, I have not figured out. So I will speak.
God bless you. See, women always know, women always find solutions.
And the next time that we meet, you will be able to see all my artworks.
Yeah, right. Robbie, can't you share the screen on your end?
Yeah, I don't have the file. It was too large for her to send over email, so I don't have the file on my end, unfortunately.
Too bad, guys. All the more reason to come to New York and attend Patricia's exhibition.
Patricia, would you like me to pull up your website?
Pardon me?
Do you want me to pull up your website and share that?
No, because
No?
it's not
Okay.
on the website, you know.
Okay.
However, I'll speak
From an artist's point of view.
without, and everybody can use their imagination.
Also, you will send it, Rabbi, you will be able to put it on the website, yes?
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
I think
Exactly. So
afterwards, yes.
please take your time. In about 2 hours, it will be on our website, and you will see the images as well as hear Patricia. So you will have everything there. Go ahead, Patricia,
Actually,
please.
I'm an artist, and everything that I can think about my ancestors, I try to put on the canvas. I second the words of Ms. Bello to saluting our ancestors today. It's very, very important because essentially their DNA flows in our blood. So their contribution to where we are today is essential. But how did we get there? Most women who participated in the revolution remain anonymous, and Professor Balan mentioned that, but only a few are known. But my search continues. Now, the first Africans were brought in 1503, but it was in 1700 that large-scale sugar production began, and Saint-Domingue becomes the pearl of the Antilles. Now, on a humanitarian side, since the Code Noir forbade marriage between white and black people, plaçage or concubinage became a system to allow civil unions with Africans. And slowly, a mixing of the population happened. Their children were called gens de couleur or mulattoes. And women and offspring were often given their freedom. The offspring were sent to France to study. Now, during that period, free blacks and mulattoes began to amass wealth and power. And some of them, and they became even wealthier than some whites. So by the end of the 1700s, the population of women of color grew tremendously. They were savvy, they were frugal, and not afraid to use their fortunes for profit. They were shrewd businesswomen. They were very powerful actors in the economic life of Saint-Domingue. But life for the slave on the plantation was a different story. They carried the structure of Saint-Domingue. They worked the field and kept the sugar-making machinery running. From the age of 10, boys and girls were required to work the fields. Rape and sexual abuse was common, and women were considered objects of reproduction to increase the workforce. Slave women filled many roles. They were seamstresses, they were washwomen, they were cooks, wet nurses, where they fed their own milk to their masters and mistresses' children. They were midwives, some were mambos, who were very knowledgeable of herbs and poisons, and those became weaponized during the revolution. Slaves with certain position got paid a little amount, but others earned some cash by telling fortunes or selling talismans. So the number of free people of color rose quickly. They own 1/3 of the plantations and 1/4 of the real estate and slaves. Their demographic and economic presence in the colony was undeniable. Now, in France, war was raging, culminating with the storming of the Bastille. At that time, the slave population outnumbered the free population 10-1. That's very important. Slave runaways, Maroons, lived in the mountains in the thousands. They joined the revolution from the start. Now, slave owners used bloodhound dogs from Cuba to hunt Maroons and guard slave quarters. So they were so oppressed. So when the news of the French Revolution starting and the slave heard talks of liberty and equality, the structure of colonial Saint-Domingue transformed rapidly. Now, on Sundays, slaves could gather at one of the plantations to party. Those became a place to plan for a general insurrection, and that took shape very quickly. So on Sunday, August 14, 1791, about 100 slaves met at such a party and finalized plans for the general insurrection. They planned to solemnize the accord with a voodoo ceremony at the nearby Bois Caïman. That night, the Mambo Cecile Fatima officiated with the Hunga Bugman. Cecile was a mulatto. She had the sacrificial pig on a leash and bowls so that everyone could share the warm blood as they exclaimed, "Live free or die." And the bristles of the pig were used as talisman that they believed would make them invincible. You see, blood oath was central to the Bois Caïman ceremony, and it made it a religious moment. It was the combination of both the meeting and the ceremony that made the uprisal so successful. Within a month, all plantations within 50 miles of Le Cap were in ashes. Transformation from fugitive slave to hardened armed rebel came fast, with ammunition pilfered from the plantations. Toussaint Louverture joined the insurrection and became the leader. The role of women varied, as Baina mentioned. They took up arms and participated in all levels of military involvement. They served in battle and behind the scenes. They carried arms, ammunition, fired cannons. They cooked, they entertained, they washed clothes. They cared for the children. They cared for the wounded and sick. They officiated as members and worked as spies, posing as workers or merchants to deliver messages and gain information about the French. They obtained money, weapon, military intelligence, and when caught, they used their charms to obtain mercy for themselves or their loved ones.
Dear Patricia, hold on. There's a message from Monette that she has your slides.
Okay.
Just a second. Robbie, how can Monette convey the slides to
I have the email from Manette, and what it is, it's a link to her website of the gallery section of her website.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's the actual slide.
Will that help, Patricia, or it's much more than you think? Patricia.
Let's continue. Since we started there, let's continue this. There is not very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Monet.
So,
Okay.
the role of women varied, and as I said, they participated in all levels of military involvement. Of course, they cared for the wounded and sick. They worked as spies. Now, Dessalines joined the rebellion from the start and became second in command. Victoria Montu, Grand Toya, was Dessalines' aunt and counselor. She was wise, she was intelligent, and she became a soldier in his army. Fleurette and Roseline were Maroon sisters who coerced French soldiers into giving them maps and secret war plans. So did Minette and Lise, famous stage performers. Now, Suzanne Sanité-Belair, she was a lieutenant, and Professor Balan mentioned her. She and her husband were captured and executed, but she refused to wear the blindfold. Two women soldiers, Pierrette Jolibois, she was the lieutenant on 3rd Royal Battalion, and Guillemette Charlot, 1st Battalion of the Artibonite. They fought in Henri Christophe. Marie-Jeanne Lamartinière, as Professor Balan mentioned, served under Toussaint. Her husband was the commander of the Fort Crête-à-Pierrot, and she fought and nursed her injured comrades. Now, heat, mosquitoes, and yellow fever all took a heavy toll on Leclerc's army, and women from the plantation would stand by the road with food and drink and waited for tired, hungry French soldiers and trade the food for ammunitions, which they gave to their guys. Catherine Flan sewed the first Haitian flag, and it said that at the end of the Congress, Dessalines ripped out the white from the French flag and gave it to Catherine to sew together. Maman Brigitte, now, there's a Polish legion of 5,200 men who came with Leclerc. Now, realizing that the rebel class was similar to their own in Europe, they defected to the rebel side. Two Polish women, Jeanne and André, were riflewomen on the roster of the 2nd Polish Demi-Brigade. Many of their children were also listed as drummers. And we have Défilé La Folle, who was there. She was a peddler who followed Dessalines or wherever he went. But she was there when he was assassinated at the Pont Rouge. And they took his body and dismembered it. And she took all the parts and brought them to the cemetery. And that's thanks to her that he has a site at the cemetery. And of course, we have Henri Christophe, who married Marie-Louise Corrie-David, a free Black woman, and she became the Queen of Haiti when Christophe became King Henri I. Even la Dessalinienne, Dessalines' legacy, I wish it was a woman, but they turned it around. You see, it's Dessalines, the man. His legacy is embodied in Haiti's national anthem, which is called La Dessalinienne, suggesting that she is a woman. So the war lasted 13 long years. Slavery was abolished in Saint-Domingue. This revolution touched the entire world. Now, the victory brought many surprises, like the Louisiana Purchase, the chastising of Haiti, the reparations to France, and the struggle for good governance. And this struggle for good governance, we suffer from it today. So our fight today is as much about the past as it is about our present. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for for being such a wonderful historian. We are all looking. The chat has several versions of your website, and I'm sure people are looking, but we will also make sure that it's attached to the
Yeah,
web.
I will send it to you. I will send you what I
No,
have.
we have that. Thank you. I wonder, we normally have a dialogue among the presenters. Is there any, Professor Bello, Leslie, Stephanie, is there anything you would like to add or to point out to in other people's presentations right now? And unmute, please. Yes.
Well, I
Go ahead, Professor Bello.
Thank you, but I think I would really love to give the audience a chance to question.
Thank you. That me too. Same here. We were waiting. Monette is asking if you're giving your permission for us to put the imagery on our website.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Monette, for asking. Leslie, I see that you have something to add.
No, actually, I was going to say what Professor Bello mentioned, that perhaps from the audience would be welcome.
Absolutely. The audience has been tolerant and patient. You have no idea how much we appreciate that and your presence. Stephanie, would you like to say anything?
No, I concur with Leslie and Professor Bello. Let's turn it over to the audience and get their perspective.
Wonderful. I don't see any formal questions or comments. So I wonder if anyone from the audience would like to put a question in the question and answer place or in the comments. People are just saying thank you and pleasure, and Christella is saying what a pleasure to see you again, that you were her teacher in CFDE University in Haiti. Please let us know how to stay in touch with you. So one of the good things about this webinar is to recreate our networks and taking them wider. Cecilia is saying, looking at the present, how can we ensure women's stories are being told in Haiti and in other countries? So anyone has please, an idea about that?
Well, we can never be sure of anything, but we can be certain that there are several of us that do different activities, speak publicly about the presence of women. Books are being published about the presence of women. So certain efforts are being made, but we cannot be sure of anything. One thing I would also like to add, a very close, a very near, very present example. During Aristide's first term, there were 5 women ministers of state. And probably the most outspoken and the most visible person was Marie-Laurence Jocelyn-Lassègue. And a good friend of hers wrote a book about that government, except she was not in it.
No. She was
Yes,
so
and look at
she was so dynamic. Such a dynamic person.
A good friend of hers wrote the book.
Wow.
Yeah, this is, I agree. This is what happens, and it's similar. We can speak about the rest of the world in a second. George Furon is saying, is asking you, Professor Bello, how do you interpret Duvalier's use of Marie-Jeanne as a tool of oppression?
Well, I don't know. We're looking at it with a certain optic as a tool of oppression. Maybe he was using it as a tool of women power. Okay, well, it all depends on from what point of view you're looking at it. Yeah, no matter what, he did give women a certain, in the structure of what is later called Tonton Makut, but which is actually the volunteers for security of the nation. There was women troops. And in fact, at some point, one woman became the head of the entire structure. So I don't know that I would look at it as a thing of, I wouldn't take it the way you do. I don't take it the way you do. With everything that I may have against François Duvalier, but I don't look at everything he did as something negative. That does not exist. Somebody who does everything they do has only a negative connotation.
Annie Collard is saying, as portrayed in the description of her portrait. Indeed, thank you. Okay. Cynthia Langtwig is asking a question that is at the heart of the International Center for Multigenerational Legacies of Trauma right now, and always, not only the Haiti Working Group. What are the psychological implications of not knowing this important gendered information in the here and now for Haiti and across the world? I will let all of you say something, and I might add later. Go ahead, anyone wants to add? I think Professor Bello did give that a clear thought in your presentation. Would you like to add some more?
Well, we are today, first of all, the number one element to understand, if we learn a past with no women, then the present even with the presence of women, those women have no view of themselves. And that's what will make, all this injustice in creating laws and structures and whatnot that just deny so the first element of curing is to go back and recognize the women of the past. That's step number one. That means my little girl would be a great grandchild.
She's no longer little. She's no longer little. Yes.
Right. So my, the little girls that are growing up, if they get to hear and see women in whatever activities in every situation, then it gives them a different perception of themselves. And as this is done more and more, journalists, writers of all sorts, films, theater people, etc., etc. For example, Les Productions Yole de Rose created recently Héritage, which presented 10 or 12 women of the past. And people, all their reflections, so many of people who spoke to me after it were saying how they realized that they recognized themselves as they saw the play, and certain things that they may have subdued in themselves, they now feel freer to express themselves that way. So that's the beginning. The beginning is to go back and correct, and then assume in the present, and then we can go on to a better future with the hope of a better future. But without going back, but be careful. Going back does not mean 300 years, okay? The history of Africa has more than 50,000 years of written history. And if we take certain periods, women were everywhere. If we take Libya, for example, the Libyan army was 80% women. Rulers all over Africa were women. So there's a whole perception. All of that is being subdued today, and it has to take back its place. Okay, and some of the work is being done. In Benin, I'm very proud of the Benin government, who has done a lot of work in assuming some of the female warriors of the Dahomey time, and bring them, create statues, and correct the national anthem to include that which women have done, which is the first national anthem was in French. Now it is in their own language, and it does take into consideration some of the accomplishments of women. So these are the corrections that have to be done through and through.
Let me add a psychological point of view. Part of what we are doing in this webinar, and it's such a good way of beginning the year, even independently of Haiti, but certainly the ancestral point of view, is to heal history. Part of what you heard today, symbolically, was how history is being cohered. We are cohering history. We are trying to fill in gaps that were historical wounds of absence. Each one on this is, you didn't think that way, but of course, as a psychologist, I do. We are cohering history. We are healing history. And when we are healing history, we can become then what is today a phrase I use regularly, which is be a good ancestor, which is what Professor Bello said, her great grandchild, her little girl, is a good ancestor to her daughters, and of course her sons. And Leslie, I'm sure you agree from a men's point of view as well. So from a psychohistorical point of view, we are cohering history. We are healing history so we can walk in the present and toward the future on healed grounds. And look on full view, not just narrow patriarchal view. So that's a huge, it's huge what we are doing today. Technical problems, this problem, that problem. We're doing something amazing to begin the year. And part of what the center has been working on is to create a worldwide women's group that came out of another webinar and another webinar and another webinar. So women together from all over the world can help beyond, of course, the books and the museum and the material, etc., but to analyze exactly your kind, Cynthia, your kind of question. And so please join us. Also, I will in a second give the floor to Monette. So Robbie, be ready to give her point of view. I want to add Nathalie Vendries. This is a rich sharing. Thank you to all panelists, and knowing that it's a worldwide concern about history, what can be done concretely to start filling this woman gap history exactly. This is what this is about. It's an amazing beginning of 2005. And not only respectful of ancestors, but to look forward, to be good ancestors forward. Many things have been done separately, you're right. That's why we want to do a group to meet maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks, and just update each other. We have women all over the world looking for that. Start a compilation, she said, of what we know about women in Haiti's history. You're absolutely right about Haiti specifically. They never stop adding. Exactly, that's what being a good ancestor is. Make it for everybody, not only for scholars, exactly. Send her to act to fill this gap with kids. It will support identity construction and build pride. Monette, I think this is your message, which you're going to give in a minute. Then there is a message in French from Christina. Can the first French translator help me here, please? Hello? Monette, can you help?
Yeah, I'll do it. She says, thank you very much to Monette and to everyone for having expanded my view on females in Haiti and on the way that they are held apart from the story of the culture and the politics.
Perfect. Thank you. And there's two more comments from Nathalie before Monette takes the floor. I think we can speak about the women void in history endlessly. It's obvious the urgency is to do something about it and make it available to all generations. The solution is in the action, despite the difficulty to recollect the facts. Before Monette, dear, Leslie, do you want to say anything from a men's point of view here? Because we totally need the cooperation of men.
Well, I remain absent. I think that it is the Women's Day today. So I remain absent, yes. I often want to channel my mother, but this time I'm in good company. So I'll stay quiet. I'm listening. I'm learning.
Love you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Excuse me, if I may say, today is Ancestors Day. That's women and men. Now, January 6th is the day of the mothers of the nation. That's
Oh,
the
really?
day we.
Oh, a minute.
Yes,
Why didn't you say
from the,
so?
from the old, no, that's not today's calendar. This is from the 1805 calendar. There was January 1st for Independence Day, January 2nd to commemorate and thank the ancestors, and January 6th is to greet to salute the mother. Day it was called the Day of the Mothers of the Nation. So that's but that's been that was removed from our calendar in 1928 during the U.S. occupation.
See, that we can have a whole webinar just on that, of course. the removal, but also the view of women as mothers, right? Women in particular view. So we can have another webinar maybe on Mother's Day. Then another webinar on Father's Day about these issues. Monet, dear, this is the stage is this webinar is because of you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniele. Well, I have very few words. I just want to thank all the speakers because they give us really a great present today. Professor Bello, Marie-Lucie, Vendris, Stephanie Chancy, and Patricia, and William. Really extraordinary. I started doing this work by what I said, just because I received an email from an Italian researcher who was seeking for the Queen of Haiti, and then wanted to organize and get the mayor of Pisa, the city of Pisa, to put two plaque on the places where she lived and where she was buried. And that's the way I started to get interested in the role of women in history. It's really a great path. And so that we have finally the chance to own our own narrative and understand the way the things were done, written by women, and also the fact that you can't find them nowhere, and then trying to understand why why is this the case. So, and I've learned a lot today, especially from Professor Bello, who mentioned few figures that I never heard about. So I think that it's just the beginning, really just the beginning. And I'm very happy also to say that we have one book written by one Haitian descent about Haitian women, the queen of Haiti, Marie-Louise Christophe, and it's just the beginning. And then there is another one coming, and I am very happy to say that the new book title is Baina and Tatoya. So yes, that's it. And thank you so much, Dr. Daniele, for your patience and your great help, for also accepting to host and guide us through this. How could I say that? Through this experience, not just this webinar. It's a year and a half since we've been working together with Dr. Lemmy.
Working group, and
Yes.
please, of the participants, we are open. Please join us. We meet every 2 weeks, Fridays at 6, and it's a very interesting, in-depth group. And we learn and learn and learn, and we create together. So go ahead, Monette. And Monette is co-chair, and Dr. Marie Lemise, who is a participant, and Leslie, and Professor Bello keeps sending us comments, which is wonderful. And Patricia is a member. I hope Stephanie from now on will be. So
yes, I want to take this opportunity also to thank Dr. Nicole Wilson. She's the one who organized the first, let's say, movement. I'm calling this a movement of women towards in England. She organized and found a way. I don't know how did she manage to do that, to put 2 plates, blue plates, I think heritage plates it's called, recalling the places where the Queen of Haiti lived in England, because when after that she left Haiti, she moved to London, and then from there she moved to Tuscany, because Italy as a unified country didn't exist yet. So thank you, Nicole Wilson. Thanks to Nicole that we have all these people here together. It's thanks to Nicole that I get to know Dr. Bello, Professor Bello, sorry, and I saw Dr. Chancy, Patricia Brintle, and as well as Marie-Lucie, with whom I hope to continue working. And also my partner in crime, it's Gerline Smith, Joseph. She's the one who managed to pull all the translator here today. And we created this grid app publishing company to publish books about Haitian kids. And so, yes,
Okay, thank you so much. And again, everybody, be good ancestors on Ancestors Day. And we continue to work together. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Take great care, everyone.
Thank you, Professor.
Very good meeting, everybody.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you.